Good evening or good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jeff Rail, and I'm a landscape architect with Hitchcock Design Group. We're a Naperville-based planning and landscape architecture group. Very happy to be here to share with you the ideas that we have before you today with this new facility. When we first visited Alton, we came down and went through the park, and it was like interesting. The outcropping was amazing. We did have a chance to kind of walk through the trails that were in the back and see some of the natural outcropping. So we see why the park wanted to be there. But there were some lacking facilities. The restroom building, the existing restroom building was shut down and shuttered. There wasn't much else to see other than the existing conditions. So what we wanted to do is come up with a site plan that served the motor coaches and served the buses that can come in, position a building that was proper and didn't block the views. So as you were going upstream and you're looking at the park, that we didn't want to put the building in front of the existing natural stone outcropping. We also felt it was important that we didn't want to really encroach the native and undisturbed areas of the wooded areas. We didn't really want to encroach that. There are some unknowns back there that we just wanted to avoid for now. But we did have a pretty good clean slate with that existing parking lot and the adjacent pedestrian areas around it. So if you go to the next image, the site plan that we created, currently on the left-hand side of the image, you'll see the existing entrance into that park and that parking lot. It serves the water plant up the hill. But we wanted to create a secondary entrance, and the important component of that was it allowed for us to have motor coach access so they didn't have to turn around within the area. So somebody could get into that facility in a motor coach or in a bus, do a drop off in front of the building, and then proceed on their way out. So it gives us a lot more flexibility on the pedestrian circulation in that space and the vehicular circulation in the space. You'll see the building in the upper right-hand corner. It's a one-story with a two-story frame to it, but it's a one-story structure. It's positioned in a way at an angle like that, so as you're driving up, you're not blocking the view of the Piasa bird and the stone outcropping. That was an important component. It's kind of nestled into the existing woods. And I mentioned before, we're not proposing to address or to improve any of those natural improvements in the trails that go on beyond that. There's about 30 parking spaces that would be provided with this plan. We also propose a predominantly native new landscape. We want to make sure that the plants are maintainable. There are new pedestrian amenities and bike racks and drinking facilities, water bottle filling stations that will be part of the new visitor experiences that are out there. We know that there's caverns that people like to get into, and we can't go in and protect Mother Nature from those rocks from falling, but what we can do is provide an overlook that's fenced in that looks a little bit better than chain link fence right now, that gives you an opportunity to experience that, but safely. And so we're not proposing any structural repairs of the caverns themselves, but at least we'll be able to get an observation area up to it. We also want to provide those people who are riding bikes or other visitors or walkers that come to this facility with these pedestrian plaza spaces so they could be programmed during special events and other activities. So there's plenty of plaza space on this plan as well. There's the parking or the truck parking lot that is just downstream from this. We hope to maybe in the future have something happen with that, but for now, we're working, assuming that is still going to be there for the time being. Next image. So these are some of the public pedestrian spaces that are in the foreground of the building. You can imagine they're generous enough. They're all ADA accessible. If you had a special event and you wanted to set up some vendor tents out there, you could. Next image. These are some of the shade structures. It is out in the open. That's one of the things we noticed out there. There was a lack of shade unless you went off into the woods. So let's provide some permanent shade canopies and make the visitor experience better. Next image. And once again, some of the seat walls so you can sit on the seat wall, walk with your dog. There will be a new retaining wall that will be constructed right now. There's some grade transitions that need to be accommodated to make sure that we have room for some of these expanded new facilities. The background of the building. So here's a good shot of the Piasa bird, the existing outcropping, motor coach pulling in. The building itself, we're focused right now on the position of the building, and then what I'm going to do is turn it over to Jamie Henderson. Jamie's the architect who's kind of the master behind the building itself, and so he'll get into some greater detail on the uses within the building, what it looks like, and so on. So with that, Jamie.
Welcome everyone. I'm Jamie Henderson from Henderson Associate Architects in Edwardsville. We're thrilled to be part of this really exciting project. And so when we initially met, we first out of the gate, we did created a program on how we wanted to use the space, identify how big the building was going to be, and how we were going to use it. As this plan represents, we wanted to accommodate both coaches for the river traffic that's coming up, school groups, just the normal tourists. So we've kind of got it broken up into three pieces. First being the main entrance, the reception area and gift shop. We wanted to accommodate 65 people that would be coming in off a coach. This space could also be used for fundraising and formal gatherings. The experience space, which would go from the vestibule and kind of wrap around, is designed for exhibit space to celebrate and to provide narratives for the Great River Road and the Great Rivers and Routes. And as Corey mentioned, we are working with a design team up in Northern Illinois who's going to be working with us specifically on those boards. Obviously, we got to provide restrooms. The restrooms we made convenient for all of the users, especially the tour buses. We have an auditorium space that will accommodate 40 to 50 people for classrooms or orientation for the river travelers, classroom environment, really multi-purpose space. And then we are going to provide accommodations for the office staff and the volunteers that will be running the facility while it's open. Next slide, please. This is kind of a roof plan slash second story space. So we talked about pursuing like a LEED certified building, but we didn't think we don't have the time or the, because we have to spend the money and LEED projects take a long time. So we are taking a very sustainable approach with materials and design and with all of the mechanics and functions. So we are making room on the roof for photovoltaics. We've also talked about a green roof on the low one-story portions. And in the very beginning, we talked about creating a rooftop garden, which is why we've kind of positioned the building kind of up into the hillside a little bit. We're not sure that we can afford that piece of it, but I think that with the trails behind it, which really aren't part of this project yet, but we'd like to be able to get up behind the building and get a more of a bird's eye perspective, and we would have the opportunity to do that on the hill. So we're basically doing a one-story building with a two-story atrium space full of glass and views out to the river. The orientation of the building, just based on the site and the location of the river, is south and west. So that's going to be the greatest intensity of sun throughout the day. So we've employed a bunch of shade devices to kind of help with that without destroying the views of the Piasa bird and the river. And you can see the fins coming down on the bottom of the page, the large roof overhangs, and the canopy on the right that extends out towards the bus drop-off area. Next slide, please. So conventional construction throughout most of the building, with the exception of this two-story volume where we'll have clear story glass all the way around. Again, the large broad overhangs to help with the shading in the summertime. And then the kind of the nod of the Clark Bridge as a canopy structure that would lead you from the buses into the building. Also, provide an outdoor room for outdoor classrooms and exhibits that you would want to do outside. In addition to, as Jeff mentioned, providing tents for special events and things like that where we have plenty of space. The image that I'm showing kind of up in the ceiling, because when initially we talked about concept and imagery, and we wanted it to be, somewhat nautically themed without, recreating a steamboat, kind of thing. So I envision a sculptural riverboat or longboat that Lewis and Clark may have used, but something structural that would be suspended up in the ceiling that would support the nautical theme, but also create interesting shadow kind of throughout the day as the sun's moving through the sky. One of the things that is very important with all of the projects we're looking at with Great Rivers and Routes is the gift shop. So we're going to have plenty of opportunity for postcards and t-shirts and hats so that you won't leave without having some souvenir to take with you. Next slide, please. In developing this, to get to the pretty pictures that you see here, we have to go through the architectural elevations. The top image is what you would see as you're heading out of Alton up the River Road. Today we are dealing with the Arden parking lot, which is not the best view, but we want to take advantage of the morning light. So we have punched openings, kind of in the shape of the meandering river, and we're going to skin that volume with limestone to match the bluffs, so we can locally source that. The lower image is kind of the main entrance, where you can see all of the glass, two-story volume of curtain wall with some low canopies and the broad overhang, and then the vertical sunshades that will be incorporated into the curtain wall. We will be doing daylighting studies and sun studies to ensure that what we're designing is appropriate and will be not only aesthetic and kind of reinforcing the imagery, but also be functional so that we don't ruin displays and all of that, but we want to be able to see out towards the river and the Piasa River. Next slide, please. This is a 3D view of that elevation as you're heading out of town. The front windows would be the auditorium, and again the meandering windows on the side are all the office areas and support staff areas. Next. So the view from the patio and kind of the playfulness of the structure, kind of mimicking the Clark Bridge. Next. You can see into the multi-purpose classroom, auditorium. Next. So it's amazing what Hitchcock Group did with our drawings and just really bringing them to life. So, with all the glass, we're going to be looking at tinting, and whether it's double or triple glazed. I'm sorry, I gotta go. So, apologies. So I think, we're really pleased with the way it's turning out and the way that the building is integrated into the existing landscape and the new landscaping. And really we're trying to provide a piece that is there to be an exciting architectural piece that will draw you in, filled with exhibits and educational materials that just speaks about the geography and the rivers and the local heritage. So again, lots of glass and steel, lots of stone. Next, please. Next. And that's it. We have reduced the parking on the site because we think it was overloaded, but we think that we have accommodated what we need. So.
There's one other item that I wanted to talk about is obviously this property is right adjacent to the river. Floodplain is all around it. We have gone out, and Cass has gone out and shot some additional spot grades in the parking lot. And the good news for us is it turns out that those grades based on the base flood elevation are 3 feet higher. So we're in good shape. We don't have to worry about any floodplain mitigation. We'll be out of the floodplain.
A lot of people have asked about timeline. Obviously, I've had to grow a lot of patience during this process, so this doesn't move as quickly as we'd all like. I think sometimes the hardest part is the money, and that was the easiest part. And so timeline, we are currently still in design phase, looking at cost estimates, and our goal would be to be out for public bid sometime late summer, and working with the Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity on their bids, specific specs, all those sorts of BEP requirements, etc. And so the goal would be out to public bid with this project here in Alton and up at Hartford sometime by late summer.